Hello, everybody, and welcome to lesson 26 of class. To see with your ears is to hear with your eyes. Let's get into it, shall we? What does this mean, you might ask or wonder? Well, most people have been taught to hear with their ears. Well, that's true, but there are many things that people don't see or hear, right? Now, how do you hear with your eyes? Well, you ever heard the expression that actions speak louder than words? Well, yes, I can say something and you heard it, but once you see it, then you can hear everything come together because the actions match up to the words. The sight matches up to the hearing. Now, let me fix this microphone real quick. Moving forward, what would be to feel with your soul? And how can that be? Well, to feel with your soul, what does that mean? Do you ever get into a room and you can just feel someone's presence there, as they say? Or you can feel someone staring at you when you're in a room, right? And you magically turn around and they turn their head real quick. That is to feel with your soul, right? The energetic thing that keeps you moving, that keeps your heart beating unconsciously, right? Until it stops. Now, this is exactly what I'm trying to refer to when it comes to feeling with your soul. When you feel with your soul, right? And you're in a room and somebody is driving their energy towards you, right? Meaning they're giving you attention, right? So their sight is upon you, their ears are there. So therefore, they're using energy in their body and it's being directed to you. Your body's not slow, it will pick up on this. And it forces you to, well, say, someone's staring at me, or I'm getting the feeling as I'm being watched, or as though I am being watched. So you look in that direction, and then all of a sudden, those people or someone or something averts their eyes, whether it's a squirrel or a plant or let's say a dog or a cat, so on and so forth. Let's leave cats out of it because cats will normally just stare back and be like, well, what do you want to do? So, these are, yes, metaphors and analogies, but you have to understand them and interpret them correctly in order to just get a little bit more out of life, right? Why? Because most people are, well, told one thing and shown one thing and they will believe it because if it looks like a duck and quacks like one, if it looks like a dog and walks like one, well, then it must be, right? Remember the analogy of the fish that Einstein gave. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb the tree, the fish will believe its whole life that it can never climb the tree. No one ever asked if the tree was underwater, which would create the perfect environment for the tree and for the fish to accomplish its mission, its task, its job, whatever the case. Maybe it wanted to climb the tree to see what was up there, see if there was anything else around. But because it was convinced that it couldn't, even though it was in the same environment, it did not. And that's what's happening with society today. We're told we can't do things because of this, that, and the third, but in actuality, you can. Last time I checked, you don't need a degree to be a business owner. You don't need a degree to do certain things. Now, you don't need a degree to own a hospital, and to get doctors to do the right thing, you need a degree to be a doctor, right? So moving forward, does a tree, right? Does a tree count as a living thing? Yes or no? It should be real quick, yes, right? Because at least science dictates that, well, a tree is a living thing. Or does it only depend on its environment or season, right? And the reason why I say this is because, well, you have people like Tyler Perry out there that would say people are meant to come into your life for seasons, etc. Trees survive for certain seasons, but they always come back. However, we also have evergreens which last year round. So how is that possible, right? Think Christmas tree, right? So it depends on the season. It also depends on the environment and what that tree was designed to do. Just like us, we are different in every which way, shape, and form. Yes, we have similar characteristics. However, we all have our own story and journey. Does that make sense? Now, does a tree breathe like us? Well, photosynthesis and the way it processes everything would say yes, because it supposedly filters the air, the carbon dioxide and monoxide and all that, turns it into oxygen so that, we could have unity and the environment could keep going. But if that tree's not there, where would the air come from? How would we have a filtering system? Would it be mechanical? Would it be fake? So these are the questions that not only I have, but I'm pretty sure some of you have, right? If you were to chop a tree in a woods, right, and nobody else was around, would they hear it fall? It's the same thing as combat, right? If you send people off to war and you say someone lived or died, well, did the bullet go off? Did the plane get shot down? No, they died. That's all they say, right? Some come back, some don't. Similar to trees, right? The question is, why are you chopping down the tree? Is it to build a home? Is it to make space, to make something better? Or is it because you don't like the way it looks or where it's at, or because it's in your way and blocking your view and things like that? So you have to ask these questions, right? And the same thing in life, right? If you were to ask a thief why they're stealing food from, let's say, Walmart, why are they stealing food from Walmart? Well, nobody asked that question. They prosecute them as a thief, give them a fine when they don't have anything because they never asked the question why. They just made assumptions, right? And you never figured out if they were stealing for greed and intended purposes or if they were trying to feed themselves and their family, right? So these are the things that people don't really necessarily pay attention to, right? Because there's a gray area when it comes to black and white, right? So why do flowers pollinate is the question. Well, let's get into it. Excuse me. Are there trees in the desert? If so, why? Well, there's something called desertification, and desertification means the decay or the destruction of something or one thing or so on and so forth, loss of life, human activity, climate control and change, so on and so forth, etc. And that causes things to disappear, but some things survive. Remember the evergreen. Now, where do cactuses live, right? How did they get there? Well, because as nature, we all want a chance to continue anew. So as nature yearns to do as we do. Now, a tree cannot move, neither can a flower. However, with some assistance, it can pollinate, right? And spread and grow somewhere else and have a chance at a better life somewhere else, right? If you're living with your parents, you move out of the house, you get your own thing, you move to a different location, whatever the case, you have a chance of a better life, right? So, do not we reflect our environment? And if so, why do we treat it as such? Think about it. If the environment is able to work together in order to keep us alive, why cannot we do the same? So there's a quote that I heard, and I'm going to pull up the show. I'm going to give them a shout out right here, called Fresh and Fit. All right. Now on Fresh and Fit, they said this quote, and it said, "Men lie and women wear makeup because men fall in love with their eyes and women fall in love with what they hear. So men lie and women wear makeup. However, if you remember the title of the lesson, this is to hear with your eyes and to see with your ears, or vice versa, right? Because you are only taught one way to see, right? If you were to break this down into Marvel terms or things like that, Daredevil has other ways of seeing, right? If you were to go to other fictional characters, such as the blind swordsman, he had other ways of seeing. Now, how is that? Well, because he not only was trained, but he learned how to use other abilities in order to do so. How do bats see at night? Well, how do dolphins communicate in the water? Echolocation, which gives birth to sonar and everything else, right? So we do not only take from our environment, we reflect it. Yes or no? And if it's a yes, well then, what's going on here, right? So let's talk about it. Since you only mastered one side, which is normally the physical side, right? Oh, I heard that, so I'm going to turn because my ear on my right side heard something over here, so I'm going to look this way, right? Or I heard something on my left side, so I'm going to turn and look that way, right? But when I see something and the sound doesn't match up, that's where there's a disconnect. So yes, you can look good on the outside, be but be horrible on the inside, right? And this goes for both parts. This is what I think they mean when they say you need to find balance, right? You've only mastered one sight. You only mastered one sense of hearing, right? If you master both, right, your outer and inner self, then you will not only be able to find people that not only emulate you, but reflect a little bit of who you are with slight differences so that you both can learn from each other without driving each other crazy, of course. How many people have been with somebody that they found attractive? It doesn't matter what sex you are, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, this person is driving me crazy. Well, why did you get into the relationship in the first place without first understanding the individual? Did you first understand yourself and know what you wanted, or did you just pursue the physical part of it, right? And what do I mean by physical? Well, I could say a lot of things, but do you know what's going on inside of your body, inside of your mind, right? So let's move forward because I don't want to get caught up on it. But it does take two to keep two together. Now, if I were to touch back on mastering yourself, right? So, mastering yourself, mastering both the outer work and the inner work, that takes two. Those are two things you have to master. So, it takes two things, right, to keep two together. Now, you cannot take somebody that's at 100% and bring somebody that's at 0% and put them together and hope that they work out to be perfectly balanced. They will eventually be 50-50, but something will always be missing, and they'll look for something else outside of what that unity is supposed to resemble in order to fulfill that emptiness, right? So this is what I mean, right? So it takes two to keep two together. Now, if you ever got into a relationship, got married, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case, that pair bonding that happens, right? When two people that know each other come together, right? They know themselves, they balance inner and outer work, right? This one balance inner and outer work. Now those two come together and that keeps them together, right? Because they got their questions and everything answered and out of the way, so they're more specific with what they want in life. Those that haven't aren't as specific, so it's like what Tony Robbins says, if you want money, okay, here's a quarter, right? But you need more money than a quarter. So be more specific. If you need $160,000, say I need $160,000, right? If you need $250,000, say you need $250,000. Don't say you just need money. Does that make sense? The more specific you are with your questions, and you could practice this with things like AI, ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, you can ask it for an answer for it to help you, and it'll give you a generic answer, or you could tell it to become something and then help you. That would be more specific and more unique to your situation. Yes or yes? And if so, why not do it? So the reason why I say it takes two to keep two together is because that's how you survive the weather, right? When chaos and things come along, well, if you are at 50% and the other one's at 50% and someone gets sick, chances are that person might leave or they might stay. However, it's up to both of them to figure that out and then to make the individual choice of what they want to do. Now, what's interesting about the number 22, right? Because they say, the two have to be equally yoked, right? If you were to take the number two, right, and flip it around and to create the other two, right, it kind of looks like the omega symbol, right, if you put them together, or it looks like a yoke that would go around an ox's neck, or horses or whatever, if you were steering a carriage or whatever the case may be. So it all depends how you see, if you can. But if there are those that cannot, well, you should start asking better questions, right? If you want better answers out of life, ask better questions, right? So let's keep moving forward, because why did I say if you can see, right? Now, if you look at my journal here, where I have my notes, so here I actually have the letter C because it sounds that way, but what I was saying is not spelled that way, right? It's the letter C, and then if U with the letter U, so on and so forth, etc., right? So let's keep going. If you were to take one and make them face each other, right? Take the letter C, turn it around, have the other C written the correct way. The two look like magnets pointed at each other. Now, depending on the way they're positioned, right? North to south, south to north, or north to north, south to south, they'll either be repulsed and push each other away. But if they're not, then they'll come together and conjoin and make a circle or an oval or an oblong shape, so on and so forth. And then if they can hold a line, you will see. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, looking at my journal here, right, because 3 heads are normally better than one, right? So let's talk about it. So if you take the C, if I were to cover this up, see the 2 C's at the top? It looks like the medical symbol a little bit, and then a line in between. They hold the line, right? And then you have one over here, which if you look at the symbol, you have one snake, which represents knowledge, and then another snake looking back, so on and so forth. If you go to the hospital, because in America, that's the symbol that they use, you have the mental health side, and then you also have the physical side. So they have to determine what's what and what's going on, right? And then the staff in the middle would possibly be the line or the body that they're trying to solve for, yes? So if they cannot figure that out, then they're going to keep looking. And when they keep looking, it gives you this feeling that they're trying to play scientist. Right now, the job of the ambulance, which only has one snake, right, has one job to do to keep the physical body alive, to bring it to the hospital, so that then they can look at it from both sides, if that makes sense. Which I'm guessing is why the two snakes are looking at each other, right? So why do I say that 2 heads are better than one? Well, it's very true, right? The ambulance has 1 head. That's easy, right? They could triage, they could do something on the fly to keep you alive just long enough to get you to the hospital, but you need more people or more than 1 head in order to figure out how to cure everything. Seems crazy or crazy? Let's talk about language, yes? So here, yes, I said crazy twice, but here I spelt it with a K. Here I spelt it with a C. But if you were to pronounce it, it would be pronounced and enunciated the same way. Unless you add slang or ebonics to it, and then it'd be cray cray or crazy, whatever the case may be. Right? So, as I said earlier, the other two try to figure it out so they can find out, right? Because people are always curious. So they'll keep digging until they'll find whatever they look for. This would be, well, either a confirmation bias or a false fallacy. So you keep searching until you find what you're looking for, which is true based upon psychology. And that's one side of it, right? But then what happens to you internally that also generates you to want to do more in life, right? The physical side, going out, having fun, getting drunk with your friends, whatever the case may be, right? It's those small things that keep you alive. And yes, it may be simple, but you'll be surprised how much the simple can affect you in such a large way. Now, the simple can turn complex very quickly because if you make a baby, the two now become one. You have the mother's DNA and the father's DNA, right? Or the chromosomes, right? So on and so forth. And so the two now become one, right? This also comes down to also mastering yourself, your inner and outer work, right? Your mental side and your physical side. Do you exercise? Do you have balance? Yeah, you can drink, but make sure you go to the gym to sweat out the toxins. Do you drink in excess? Well, everything in life, well, I'm pretty sure physics applies to it. So it has an equal to opposite reaction. So if you put too much weight on one side of a scale, is the scale balanced? Probably not. See what I'm saying? So let me go back to feeling with your soul. To do this, it's similar to creating with your mind as children do. Right? If you ask kids, they have these great imaginations, so on and so forth, and they create things with their mind. And over time, they get told, like the fish, that they can't do certain things. Whoever said they couldn't do certain things? Is someone not willing to take the time to educate them? Is someone not taking the time to put it out there so that they can be educated, whether that's through free videos on YouTube or somewhere else, etc.? And if you're finding any value out of this, by all means, please subscribe and follow me so that, I can not only help you, but it helps the algorithm find other people that are interested in things like this. It's just a different way of looking at things, right? Fixing the perspective and the perceptions that people have of the world. How can you hate a country that you've never been to? How can you hate a person that you never met? How can you judge a person or a book without first reading or speaking to them or it? If you, excuse me. So, just to tap in just before I move forward. So, remember to feel with your soul. Remember, when you feel like somebody's watching you, so on and so forth, that's the attention, so on and so forth, that energy does, it's like a magnet. Hey, look over here. It's like a sound, right? It forces you to look in that direction, right? And then, of course, to feel with your soul also is to be well in tune with yourself, meaning you found balance, so on and so forth, etc. Now, moving forward, if you do not want to, that is your choice, right? Everybody has a choice in life. Do you want to make more money? Well, then try to make more money. Do you want to, be in shape? Well, then go be in shape. Go work out. You know what to do. If you want to get high, go get high. But that's your choice, right? Now, there are stresses and there are invisible forces or whatever the case may be. And now let me get this clear for you. When I say invisible forces, I'm talking about psychology and sociology that impacts us all that we cannot see. There's your invisible force. The physical forces are the things that we could physically feel, right? So, like seeing a real doctor when you're looking for a cure, right? It comes down to a choice, but you have to understand whom you're going to, right? Because a thief will treat symptoms and a healer will bring forth a cure. One profits and the other one aims to have you continue. Now, this is what I'm seeing in the world today. A lot of people are getting treated for things, but they're only treating the symptoms. They're not solving the problem. Are there ways to solve the problem? Well, yes, you can Google it. You can ask AI, what's CRISPR technology? What's DNA modification? Hey, if they're able to make the impossible burger, right, that we're able to, you know, eat, so on and so forth, etc., and feed ourselves, why is there hunger in the world? Well, if we're also able to do that, could we not replicate organs similar to building parts in a car? So if you need a heart, you would get a perfect match. If you needed lungs, you would get a perfect match. And it wouldn't be rejected. And you would continue to go. Yes or no? See, wrapping up here, I want you guys to start asking real questions to those that claim that they are the smartest thing or that they're a know-it-all, so on and so forth. And the reason why is because, well, we have AI now. When I was younger, people thought I was either crazy or retarded or slow, so on and so forth. And that was perfectly fine. But then when I had AI available, I was able to present it questions that I had from, well, let's just say when I was knee high to a duck, right? And a lot of the answers that I came up with, sometimes on my own, it said yes to and confirmed it and provided sources. And you can ask AI to provide you sources and links just in case you think it made a hiccup or a hallucination. So why not? What's stopping you? And what's stopping you from becoming better, not worse? What's stopping you from not just being different, but being different and better at the same time? Think about it. This has been lesson 26. I love you guys. Take care. And I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Peace.